The text message came at 3 a.m. Check your email, now. Jim Patterson had sold Mercury Outboards for 37 years. What he saw made him close his dealership doors that morning. A Chinese company was selling a motor more powerful than his best-selling gas engine, for 73% less. But here's what shook the entire industry. It wasn't the price, it was the box. This motor shipped like Amazon Prime. No dealer network, no parts department, no service intervals. Buyers were installing them with a screwdriver and a smartphone app. One owner in Australia ran his for 2,000 hours. Total repairs? $0. By Christmas 2024, something nobody predicted happened. Insurance companies started refusing coverage on small gas outboards. Banks stopped financing them. Marina mechanics were learning to code instead of rebuilding carburetors. The secret that killed gas engines wasn't environmental. It wasn't political. It was mathematical. 11 parts versus 147 parts. And once buyers learned that difference, the 100-year reign of gas power ended in exactly 18 months. The revolution started where nobody was looking. Not in Silicon Valley boardrooms or Detroit engineering labs, but in the forgotten corners of the marine world. Rental fleets, eco-tours, and quiet lakes where combustion engines had just become contraband. When Torqeedo unveiled their deep blue 50R at the 2021 Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, the reaction was unanimous mockery. $45,000 for an electric outboard with the power of a traditional 50-horsepower gas engine. Mercury's chief engineer, Robert Petzold, captured the industry sentiment perfectly when he told Marine Business Weekly, "When batteries can match a jerry can for energy density, we'll worry. Until then, this is a solution looking for a problem." The numbers seemed to prove him right. Electric outboards held 0.8% of the global market. The average boater could buy 3 Yamaha 20s for the price of one electric equivalent. Dealerships wouldn't even stock them. As one Florida dealer put it, "Why would I dedicate floor space to something that needs a charging station instead of a gas pump?" But 3,000 miles away, something strange was happening. Norway's fjord tour operators, facing new emissions regulations, had no choice. They ordered 200 electric units from Torqeedo. Lake Tahoe banned two-stroke engines entirely, creating instant demand from a market that suddenly had no alternatives. The Swiss lakes followed. Then came Lake George, Lake Placid, and dozens of protected waterways across North America. Vision Marine Technologies, a small Canadian company nobody had heard of, reported 400% year-over-year growth in 2023. Their CEO, Alexandre Mongeon, made a prediction that seemed absurd at the time. By 2025, every major manufacturer will have an electric line, or they'll be acquiring someone who does. The believers were mostly young, urban, and had never rebuilt a carburetor. They didn't care about tradition. They cared about launching their boat without waking the neighborhood at 5 in the morning. They cared about trolling for bass without exhaust fumes. And most importantly, they cared about never dealing with winterization, spark plugs, or fuel stabilizers again. The old guard wasn't worried. They'd seen disruption attempts before. They controlled the dealers, the service networks, and the financing. Electric was a fad for tech enthusiasts and environmental extremists. How wrong they would be. 3 things happened simultaneously in 2024 that nobody, not Mercury, not Yamaha, not even the electric manufacturers themselves, saw coming. Each one alone might have been manageable. Together, they formed the perfect storm that would sink the traditional outboard industry. The first catalyst came from China. CATL, the battery giant that powers half the world's electric vehicles, announced their marine-specific lithium iron phosphate cells had hit $89 per kilowatt-hour. To understand the significance, consider this. Just 18 months earlier, the same capacity cost $210. Suddenly, a 10 kilowatt-hour battery pack, enough to power a boat for 8 hours of normal use, cost less than a traditional fuel system with tank, lines, and filters. The second disruption was even more radical. Chinese manufacturers like ePropulsion and Patterson decided to completely bypass the traditional dealer network. They sold directly to consumers online, shipping motors via FedEx like consumer electronics. One buyer in Fort Lauderdale documented his experience. Ordered Sunday night. It arrived Wednesday in a single box. I installed it myself in 20 minutes using the included smartphone app for setup. No dealer markup, no freight charges, no waiting 3 weeks for the model I wanted. But the third catalyst was what truly terrified the establishment. Electric owners started posting their maintenance logs in boating forums, or rather, their lack of maintenance logs. 3 years, 2,700 hours, $0 in repairs, posted one user from Seattle, another from Michigan. My neighbor spent $2,400 maintaining his Mercury this season. I spent $12 on a bottle of contact cleaner. Insurance companies took notice. Progressive Marine Insurance began offering 30% discounts for electric outboards. State Farm followed. The reasoning was simple mathematics. Fewer moving parts meant fewer claims. A viral TikTok video drove the point home. A mechanic disassembled a Mercury 9.9 horsepower engine, laying out 147 individual parts that could fail. Next slide, an ePropulsion teardown revealing 11 parts total. By August 2024, West Marine reported something unprecedented. Electric outboard sales had exceeded two-stroke sales for the first time in the company's history. Small dealers in Florida started refusing trade-ins on gas engines under 25 horsepower. They couldn't move them. The avalanche had begun, and nobody could stop it. Black Friday 2024 will be remembered as the day the gas outboard market died. At 9 a.m. Eastern, Flux Marine announced their 70 horsepower equivalent electric outboard for $4,999. By noon, every major manufacturer had announced emergency promotional pricing. Mercury slashed their 9.9 four-stroke from $3,200 to $1,899. Yamaha offered 0% financing for 36 months. Suzuki introduced a buyback guarantee. None of it mattered. Jim Patterson, who runs Patterson Marine in Tampa, describes that week. I've got 47 gas outboards that nobody wants to finance. The banks know electric killed resale value. A customer literally asked me, why would I buy your 15 horsepower for $2,500 when I can get an electric that outperforms it for $1,299? I had no answer. I still don't. The numbers from the fourth quarter of 2024 tell the story. Gas outboard sales in the under 50 horsepower segment dropped 34% year over year. Electric outboard sales increased 340%. Average dealer inventory turnover stretched to 180 days, 4 times longer than 2023. Boat builders reported 60% of new orders specified electric-ready transoms with integrated charging ports. The psychological shift happened even faster than the financial one. At the Miami Boat Show preview, a Yamaha representative admitted what everyone was thinking, but nobody wanted to say, "We're not competing with each other anymore. We're competing with a business model we don't understand and can't replicate without destroying our dealer network." The human cost became visible in small coastal towns. 1,200 dealership mechanics were either retrained or laid off by year's end. Service departments reported 50% revenue drops. One technician in Louisiana who asked to remain anonymous shared his reality. My father serviced Mercuries for 40 years. I've been doing it for 15. I might not make it to 5 more. There's nothing to service on these electric motors. They either work or they don't. When they don't, you replace a module, not rebuild an engine. Marina owners found themselves caught in the middle. They needed to install charging infrastructure, but couldn't afford to alienate gas engine customers who still represented 70% of their slip rentals. Many chose a painful compromise, converting only new construction to electric-ready, hoping to ride out the transition. Understanding why gas engines fell so quickly requires examining economics that the marine industry had hidden for decades. A 20 horsepower gas outboard carries a 40% dealer margin built into its price. The manufacturer makes 20%. Distributors take another 10. By the time it reaches a consumer, more than half the cost has nothing to do with the actual motor. Electric manufacturers obliterated this structure. Direct sales meant 15% margins with no inventory costs, no floor planning, no dealer holdbacks. As industry analyst Mark Richardson explained to Marine Industry News, they weren't just selling motors cheaper, they eliminated the entire cost structure that had existed since the 1950s. It's like competing against someone who doesn't need to eat or sleep. The technology convergence was equally devastating. Brushless motors achieve 95% efficiency compared to gas engines' 25 to 30%. Software updates via smartphone replaced mechanical expertise. Torque curves made traditional horsepower ratings obsolete. Independent testing by BoatTest.com confirmed what electric advocates had claimed. A 6-kilowatt electric motor produces thrust equivalent to a 20-horsepower gas engine while using 70% less energy. A generational divide emerged that split the market permanently. Buyers over 50 repeated variations of, "I'll never trust batteries on water." Buyers under 40 countered with, "I'll never deal with carburetors and winterizing." The middle ground evaporated. You were either electric curious or gas faithful, with no room for compromise. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source: environmental regulations. The EPA's 2025 emission standards would have added $400 to $800 per gas engine in compliance costs. Manufacturers faced research and development expenses they could never recoup in a shrinking market. A former Honda Marine executive, speaking off the record, admitted the truth. Electric became our escape route from regulation. We could either spend billions meeting new standards for a dying technology or pivot to electric and let the old engines fade away. The banks understood this faster than anyone. By December 2024, marine financing companies quietly adjusted their algorithms. Gas outboards under 50 horsepower became classified as declining assets. Interest rates jumped 2 percentage points. Loan terms shortened. Some lenders stopped financing them entirely. The death spiral accelerated. The industry's response came swift and desperate. Mercury announced Project Current, promising a full electric lineup by 2026. Yamaha swallowed their pride and partnered with ePropulsion for technology transfer. Suzuki made the most dramatic decision, completely exiting the small outboard market rather than compete. BRP resurrected the Evinrude brand they'd killed just 3 years earlier, repositioning it as electric only. The unexpected winners emerged from chaos. Battery recycling companies project 400% growth through 2027. Marina electricians now command $150 per hour installing charging stations. A cottage industry of portable power banks emerged for range anxiety sufferers. Hybrid outboards, gas generators charging electric motors, became the bridge technology nobody predicted but everyone suddenly wanted. Yet sobering realities loom beneath the enthusiasm. Lithium prices remain volatile, spiking 30% in just 6 months of 2024. Charging infrastructure can't keep pace with adoption. Most marinas still run on electrical systems designed in the 1970s. Upgrading them requires millions in investment that nobody wants to fund. The first major battery fire is coming. Industry insiders know this. When it happens, when a 40-foot yacht burns to the waterline because of thermal runaway, will public confidence survive? Insurance companies are already preparing exclusion clauses. The Coast Guard has issued preliminary guidance on electric vessel firefighting that essentially admits they don't have solutions yet. Standing in his empty service bay, Jim Patterson holds a 1978 Johnson 9.9 that still runs after 46 years. Next to it sits an electric outboard, sleek and silent, promising 5 years of maintenance-free operation. "Progress," he says, running his hand along the old Johnson's cowling. "Always cost somebody something. My grandfather built these engines. My father fixed them. I sold them. My son? He's learning to code." The revolution wasn't about environmental consciousness or technological superiority. It was about ruthless economics. When you can build a motor with 11 parts instead of 147, ship it in a box instead of a crate, update it with code instead of callbacks, you haven't just disrupted a product. You've dismantled an entire way of life. As boats grow larger and voyages grow longer, one question haunts the industry. When electric motors reach 300 horsepower at commodity prices, insiders say 2027, what happens to the very idea of marine power itself?